Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to part 2 in our Smart Towns Everything You Need to Know series, today is all about the key digital building blocks that make up a smart town. So before we get started, I know a few of you are new, sort of joining us on the call today. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview about our project and kind of general housekeeping before I hand you over to our speaker for today. So I'm Holly, I'm the Regional Project Manager for the Smart Towns Wales project, primarily responsible for the Mid and West regions of Wales. Within the Smart Towns team, we're a team of 3. We also have Kiki, our overarching project manager, who oversees the sort of mid to southeast regions of Wales. And additionally, we have Rian, our digital officer, who oversees the northern regions. But obviously, being a small team, we work very closely together. So I'm sure you'll meet us all as time goes on. We're all on the call today, and please do reach out to any one of us with any questions you have, and we'd be more than happy to help or point you in the right direction of the right person. So just to kind of start things off, again, as I know a couple of you are new joining us, so what is a smart town? So a smart town, we sort of generally describe as a town that leverages information, often referred to as data, from a variety of sources such as sensors and tower Wi-Fi systems to inform decisions and enhance efficiency. So on screen, you can see kind of a map of Wales, which shows some of the areas we've engaged through the project so far. So you can see that, we've got a lot of people on board, and this sort of message is really spreading now across Wales, which is fantastic to see. So information collected from these sort of smart solutions can help with a number of everyday decisions, such as town centre decisions, from monitoring footfall patterns, to help with things like business opening hours, to tracking the status of things like planters for watering and bins for emptying. So there are a variety of solutions that can be used for many different efficiencies in a town. So as for Smart Towns Wales, our project, as mentioned, these workshops are brought to you by Smart Towns Wales, which is a Welsh Government funded project dedicated to supporting towns, businesses and communities across Wales through the power of these smart solutions. So we're aligned with the Transforming Towns agenda, and our project aims to support communities across Wales in embracing and harnessing new technology being rolled out. Our support comes in kind of 4 main forms, which you can see on screen, which include things like webinars, workshops, like today, networking events. And we also have the opportunity to tailor events to help support your specific town or community's goals. So if you're struggling utilising a bit of smart tech, or there's a specific area which you'd like support in, then please do let us know, and we'd be happy to kind of support you. We also take pride in highlighting the achievements of Welsh towns through showcasing case studies and success stories across our social media and online channels. We've also got a variety of tools and resources which you can access on our website. So we really want to help empower yourselves and key stakeholders across Wales in a variety of ways. So that's it in terms of my little bit of a generic kind of overview. Today's session is all about the key digital building blocks that make Smart Towns successful. As I've mentioned, the session will be delivered by Peter Williams, who works for the Digital Infrastructure Department for the Welsh Government. Peter has spent over 20 years working in key digital delivery and awareness raising projects in Wales, often playing a hands-on role in explaining the benefits to organisations and businesses and stakeholders like yourselves. Peter really is a fountain of knowledge, so make sure you ask him lots of questions today and pick his brains as much as possible. So in terms of housekeeping, if you have any questions, please do pop them in the chat box. We'll answer them at the end of the session. The session, as you probably heard, is being recorded, and we'll make sure you all have a copy of that following the session today. So please keep yourselves on mute, just to avoid any distractions as we run through the workshop. Although you can probably hear my dog, who is more of a distraction than anything, right on cue as always. So that's it from me. I seem to have lost you all there. Okay, perfect. I'm so sorry about Henry again. Peter, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Holly, for that excellent introduction. And it's always nice to hear Henry making a point. Obviously very interested in smart towns. So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Peter Williams. I work in the Welsh Government's Digital Infrastructure Division. We're probably best known for our work in the past decade, really, in delivering broadband across Wales in partnership with Openreach and other interventions. But more recently, my work's taken me in some IoT developments and then also this project's smart towns. So I'm going to hopefully get this on full screen and wish that I'm not going to have a connectivity problem today. So the digital building blocks of a smart town, Blociau, Adeiladu, Trefi Smart. By the way, these slides are available in Welsh, but I'll put them in English because of the room on the slides, etc., etc. But happy to take questions in either language. So basics first. Questions I think all towns should ask themselves if they're beginning this journey, or even if they're well into this journey of becoming smarter. It's not a single event; it is a journey, and you need to win across, hearts and minds for this. And the first question I would ask is: do towns need to deploy their own kits? Because a lot of people think, well, if I deploy kit, it's going to solve problems just like that. It isn't. You will have probably heard our Deputy Minister, Lee Waters, often say it's not about kit, it's about culture. And he is, of course, correct. Kit is part of the solution. But sometimes you don't need kit because of external developments and offers from other stakeholders like the marketplace. So that's the first question. And then what are we aiming to achieve? What kind of outcomes do we want? For us, from a Welsh Government, we want perspective. We want our town centres to thrive. But you need to kind of unpick a statement like that as to what it actually means for an end town. What should we expect to see? Is it just busier high street, more money going through the tills, or is it things like cleaner air? Whilst I say it's not necessarily about kit, more about culture, it's very important to understand the capability of emerging technologies, because all of a sudden you might find, gosh, I can do something which I previously didn't realize I could do, or I thought I could do it, but it'd be too expensive and too complicated. So it's really important not to shy away from the technology. We're all using one of the most advanced computer systems in our pockets, the mobile phone. So there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be shy from exploring on what IoT technologies are out there today. It's not going to bite. So understanding the capability versus what you're trying to achieve, and have you got what I would call drivers or champions? It needs to be more than one, depending on the size of the town, of course. It's always difficult to find these people, but you do need everybody on board. Think of the high streets or a town represented by a board of directors. This stuff needs to be a boardroom issue. It's important for everybody who lives and who works and who thrives from the town. So one for practicing what I preach. Some of the external tools at our disposal. ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT the question, the title of this presentation, and it gave me that answer listed there. And I can't really argue with that, but I can add a bit of value, hopefully, through the next slide. So use these online tools. If you haven't tried ChatGPT, do try it. In Adeiladu recently, we asked ChatGPT give us an itinerary of what to do to spend the day in Adeiladu. It's absolutely fantastic. There's no need to go and browse the internet. You can just ask ChatGPT. There are pluses and minuses to this because it's based on a fixed data set, but it gives you some insights now and also an idea of what's coming in the future. So diving straight into the infrastructure bit. So a couple of pictures on the right there. A couple of them are some of our engineers when they were testing and verifying OpenReach's work that they were doing on our behalf.
Sorry, Pete, we can't see you. We can still just see the first slide on the screen.
Oh, okay. I've advanced the slide.
Heard the click, but didn't see anything. Oh, there we are. Yeah, we can see that now.
So you can see that now.
Yeah, we did miss the first two slides, so it was still just on the
Hold on.
Yeah, brilliant.
I've got it full screen.
Yeah,
on mine. Do you see basics first now? The bullet points.
No, we can see the Blociau Adeiladu still.
Okay. Right. Sorry about that. I'm not sure.
What we're seeing is the PowerPoint, not the slides itself.
So can you see what I can do is go through the slides as they are now, if that works for everybody. Hold on, I just zoomed that up a little bit because you've made me a sharer. I'm sharing my screen. I tell you what, I think I might know what it is. Sorry about
I
this.
think you may be sharing the wrong screen, is it?
I think it could well be that. It could well be that. So if I don't use Zoom that often, so if I choose entire screen, share, and then we'll try this again. We have a lot of restrictions on our machines. So is it working now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so you should have full screen with a picture of Dave Jerome in his high vis on the right hand side of the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Okay. Apologies all about that. Right. So where was I? So what do the fixed networks operators offer? In Wales, a lot of it is OpenReach, but there's also other operators such as Oggi and various others. I can't name them all. So the first thing that's very, very popular across Wales, again down to one of our interventions, is fibre to the cabinet, which can provide you with 76 megabits per second. But that is quickly being replaced or overlaid with something called full fibre, FTTP, which can currently offer 900 megabits per second, which is really quick. And people often say, why do I need those speeds? Is it essential? People often got very excited about having a 10 megabit per second. There's a thing called Nielsen's law, which demand for bandwidth doubles every couple of years. So this stuff is only getting faster and faster. Once you're on full fibre, it's just a matter of changing the electronics at both ends of the fibre, and the speeds will go faster. You have something called fibre to the premise on demand. Not a very popular product because a lot of service providers don't sell it. It is available on demand in people who are, connected to a 50, 60 megabit cabinet, for example. But what's been replaced very rapidly across Wales now, and I think one of the first in Wales is St David's in Pembrokeshire, is something called a subtended head end. So where you see the little cabin outside Becws Islin in Aberdaron there, next to that in the very near future, you'll have a small cabinet, which essentially is doing the role of the telephone exchange in Pwllheli, which is about 20 miles away. And that will then enable an overlay of the what's left of the copper network with fibre. So currently there's about 48% full fibre across Wales from I think from an OpenReach perspective, and a bit more when you add in the other providers. So that's happening. Most towns will have access to a lot of the stuff I'm showing here, and also to something called Ethernet, which is a very high-end product. It's what schools will use. and corporates and mobile phone masts actually, and that's available pretty much everywhere, and offering those speeds, but it is a lot more costly. It's not your £50 a month type service. So most of these are either in towns now or will be in towns in the very near future. In terms of what do the mobile networks themselves offer, well, lots. There are enablers of many things. I've put some pictures on the right of some interventions which I've been involved or initiated or whatever. A driverless vehicle connected to a 5G mast at the Royal Welsh Show back in 2019. 5G can obviously help with that. A wind-powered mobile phone mast and a drone which is transmitting 4G signals into the Rhinog Mountains, into a knot spot to aid the search and rescue. And that's lots of the traditional bread and butter stuff of the networks, but they do offer much more, which is why I was asking the question, do we need to invest in a lot of this stuff in our towns? We need to ask ourselves that question, take stock as to what the market is offering now and in the very near future. So data is one of them, anonymized data about visitor demographics, including, very excitingly, spend profile. We ran a session with Virgin Media O2 recently, which have a product which can tell you if your town's got low spenders, mid spenders, high spenders, and that's really useful if you're trying to up your game in a high street and trying to make the trying to get everybody on the same page and make sure that they have a product that matches or that the offer matches the customer, which is a very brave thing to do without some data backing up that direction. Travel insights, where are people traveling from, how long they're staying for, repeat visitors, are all the type of things that you can get from the mobile networks, but it isn't for free. There's a cost to this. Obviously, the networks are a business, they have to make money, they are responsible to their shareholders. So a lot of these things you can either buy as a one-off, which will give you a fixed snapshot of a particular time, or you can subscribe, which can be challenging for public sector budgets, where often or not you'll find that there's capital to get stuff built or to buy things one-off, but you haven't got as much revenue to pay for something on a regular basis. But of course, the networks do more than just data. They do provide Internet of Things connectivity for sensors. NB-IoT is available throughout Wales, and something called CAT-M. So these are part of what's called the low-powered, or LP1, low-powered wide area networks. Many may not have heard of these type of networks, but they are essentially networks that don't require a lot of power on the end device to operate. So they generally have battery power for many months or years. It is available, as I said, in most places. But what you find when you try and buy these off-the-shelf products, if you've seen a sensor that's working on LoRaWAN, for example, which I'll come to in a bit, and you want it through one of the mobile networks and subscribe through them, you might find it a bit challenging in getting that sensor. And as a lot of these sensors that's on offer are ones that have been already integrated, they've already got a dashboard built in, and you just subscribe, the £2 a month for whatever. For example, a pet tracker. Maybe Henry would appreciate one of them one day, Holly. And for those wanting to deploy at scale, there may be some integration restrictions, but you have got that national coverage, so it's definitely worth looking into. If you've got NB-IoT or CAT-M not spots, you can't boost them as things currently stand, which is another issue if you're thinking of rolling a service based on NB-IoT out in a town. So there's a bit of homework needed, and obviously call on our expertise if it's needed. So we'd be happy to assist. And of course, the networks offer phone and a wireless broadband signal in different flavors. This is very important to understand, because although you might get a 4G signal on your phone, in the background it's working on different frequencies, and these frequencies or bands will vary from town to town. So the town of Builth-Wells, for example, because of the Royal Welsh Show, they've got lots of masts there which will operate on higher frequencies as well as the lower frequencies. The benefit of this is it can handle the capacity that crowds demand, basically. And in other towns, they might not have that. So there's sometimes a case to contact the mobile network operators. So if it gets really busy over the summer and you find your phones are slowing down, it probably means that there's not enough capacity, or the mobile network in question is deploying a lower frequency band for the town, when really they should be using both a lower frequency band but also a higher frequency band, something known as band 20 and band 3 or band 1, for example. So it's very important that everybody understands this, that signal, there's a lot of engineering behind the signal. And if anybody's interested in knowing a bit more about what's in their town, well, apart from doing a simple speed test during the summer and then another one during the winter, there are websites such as cellmapper.net which can give you this type of information. But it's important, and I'm going on about it, because if we haven't got good signals in our towns, then we can't give the visitors the experience that they demand. So they might be outside a restaurant wondering, do they go in or not? But they want us to go on TripAdvisor. And of course, market traders need fast connectivity throughout the year so they can take payments. So it's an important thing for towns to consider. And just to give you an example of where this stands with 5G, because 5G is going to mean much faster speeds. This is Anglesey, January this year. So I've got two operators. I'm not going to name them, but operator A is obviously in the yellow there, offering a lot of 5G coverage, but they're using a lower frequency band to do that, which means operator A, if you do a speed test in those areas, you'll get something like 150 megabits, which some might think it's fast, but in the 5G world, it's not really. When operator B on the right-hand side has deployed a higher frequency or a mid-band 5G frequency, the coverage isn't as wide, but if you go into the coverage footprint areas of operator B, you can comfortably get 500, 600, even 700 megabits per second. It's a bit of details, a bit of science behind it all, but it's important that people are aware. So Wi-Fi for analytics, what is it? Your phone basically is sending out information, anonymized information, basic stuff that needs to do to communicate with your home Wi-Fi. So whenever you're out and about with your smartphone, your phone is continuously trying to reconnect to your home Wi-Fi. So it'll be sending out information like the name of the past network it's previously connected to. So these packets of information can be picked up by Wi-Fi analytic enabled access points. It's perfectly legitimate. It's GDPR compliant if implemented correctly. But it basically means that you can have information on footfall very, very quickly. But that's it. It doesn't give spend profiles because it's not capable. It's a purely anonymized way of counting how many handsets is coming to a visit and any repeat visits as well. Some are able to offer that, and the time and duration. But the benefit of these systems are it's usually a one-off cost. So you buy the box and the license up front, and it may, come with a 5-year or ideally 10-year license, and you don't have to worry really about the ongoing costs, apart from a very, very low electricity fee and possibly an existing internet connection that it might use to get the data out. But they can also use, if you've got at least 3 of them in a town, you can use these systems like the supermarkets do, to determine how busy and which areas are the busiest, either on your market stall or your high streets, and help determine the effectiveness of any marketing that you've done beforehand, and how effective your floor space is if it's inside the shop, and adjusting the whole offer, and then see, does that work? And it's a good little evidence base for policy making, is the whole analytics and the heat mapping functionality of these systems. So some examples here of data. So the top one, we can see, passers-by, which is basically somebody passing by with their phone. A visitor is somebody who's stood for 5 minutes or more, and then you can add the dwell time, and then you can determine, should we be doing more takeaway teas and coffees because we're having more people dwell for just, for the amount of time that would justify that, or actually the data might say, oh, actually they're staying, much longer. They're staying for more than an hour. So maybe the demand isn't there. So you can interpret the data. You don't have to be boffins and, scientists with lots of letters after your name to do some basic interpretation of the data. As long as you understand the data and understand how it relates to your town, you can make some really good suggestions and insights, and go back and look at the data and see if any intervention has made a difference. You also have loyalty as well on some of these. So I put a slide here, Wi-Fi for ultra-fast street broadband. It's something that we've been thinking of based on a speed test that I did outside a 5G mast here in Ceredigion, where I got 1,271 megabits per second, which is quite fast, but I was only 30 meters away from the mast. And then I drove down then 970 meters away, as one does, and immediately the speed drops down to 169 megabits per second, and that's because of the clutter and the reduced height and altitude from the original test location, and also laws of physics. This is how they are. The faster the speeds you get over the radio waves, the shorter the distance when in the context of a mobile handset. This is a result of a single mobile network operator. Other operators didn't have 5G in this particular location. And of course, the question is, well, how would we get these type of speeds at all kinds of locations from all operators? And there are solutions to make that happen, but it would take quite a long time. So one of the ideas, like I said, I'm looking at right now with colleagues and looking at others like Sunderland Smart Cities, is the estate of Cisco Meraki units that are installed across towns across Wales. Could we upgrade the connections to them to start offering gigabit Wi-Fi? I think there's a case and a policy to do that. So just park that thought just for now. And then LoRaWAN, what is it? It's not NB-IoT, it's not Cat-M, as we mentioned earlier. It is part of the low-powered wide area networks. And the beauty is that anybody can create their own network here, because it's what's called a license exempt standard. You don't have to go to Ofcom or bid for one of their licenses before using it and deploying it. So this is something that's across Wales at this moment in time in different towns. It seems to be very, very popular. It allows tiny packets of data to be transferred, from one place to another. And the gateway, the equipment that makes this happen, is pictured on the right hand side, and that's one of the hundreds of LoRaWAN gateways that would now been installed across Wales. But there's a lot of people who still don't understand or know about this. Don't be scared of it. It's been out since at least 2017, but it seems to be gaining traction now, certainly judging by some of the conferences I've attended recently. But it does need a bit of skill, or you can kind of outsource it all to a company to do it for you. But the public sector, the councils in Wales, are doing some fantastic work in this space, and it just means that you can add different sensors to tell you different things. So this is a generic sensor which you might have seen in airports, for example, and you can label the different smiley faces, or even change the smiley faces to mean something else when people press them, and you can have an instant evidence base or feedback on your product or service or high street or whatever you're wanting to see improve. It could be a 5-question survey, and you're answering by pressing the button, and it's there instant, pretty low cost. I think they're about 70-80 pounds to buy, but you need a LoRaWAN signal. And I also should mention my rather old now LoRaWAN mousetrap. I shan't give a demonstration today, but this will tell me if I've caught a mouse via the LoRaWAN network. There's thousands of different sensors for indoor and outdoor use. There are now a small number of battery-free sensors, because that's another thing. That this rat trap, for example, mousetrap, has been running for 4 years, and it's been sending me an hourly temperature and a status of whether I've caught a mouse, not the temperature of the mouse, I should add. And it's just working absolutely fine for the past 4 years. But there are some sensors now which come with built-in solar panels, where you can actually fit them on a wall, literally with a sticker, and it can transmit data on how warm it is, and that could potentially control a heating system, and reduce the cost of heating in a town hall, for example. There's also plant-powered sensors, but you have to be mindful of permissions. People like to know, what's happening in a town, so best to engage than to enrage. Security, whilst these are generally secured by design, there's practical security considerations. Is if you're putting a sensor in a town, is somebody going to vandalize it, for example? And then, of course, as with anything, data and sensing, is it ethical? Are we doing this for the right reason? The Things conference recently, which I've been going for a number of times now, I was quite shocked to see this slide here, that the increase on how much this stuff is being used now, and this is the perspective of only one LoRaWAN network operator, which is the Things network. It is a 900% increase of data packets from 2021, and all these data packets are just very small pieces of information coming from towns or industrial control systems or farms, anything. But the increase is going up and up and up. And I was speaking to one supplier, which I'm not identifying. They used to try and sell us NB-IoT sensors, because they were saying, oh, this is going to beat LoRaWAN, etc., etc. And it was very interesting to speak to them this time, because they were saying, well, we now retail 2,000 LoRaWAN sensors or devices on our website, and I was absolutely shocked. They're selling NB-IoT, of course, it's got national coverage, but they're only selling one Cat-M type sensor. In Wales, the gateways that we've sponsored, which are in use by various organisations like Barcud Housing, they're using them very efficiently. So these will be, some of them, Ceredigion, Powys Council deployed gateways and their own, which they will use to monitor the emergency lighting system. So instead of having to send somebody out to do kind of statutory safety testing on the kind of emergency lights, they can actually do this remotely, which is saving them time, money, and making things better for the end tenants. And that's just one tiny application there. But the gateways that enable that type of service to take place in Wales, we've got we're not far from 500 now. When we're going back to 2018, and this is on the Things network, so it's just one view of things, we only had about 3. Glynllifon was the first up in northwest Wales back in 2018. So that's a 16,000% increase in deployment, and it's not stopping. We're still supporting these, but across the world that's also increasing as well. It's massive. So you're going to hear a lot more of it. But with all of this data, as I mentioned right at the start, why are you doing this? Why do you want to do this? What do you want to improve? So don't just do it for the sake of doing something or because you think you have to because another town's doing it. Always think of the outcome and always think of, well, how's my town going to be able to access the data? Because it's really, really important as part of that engagement process. Again, it's better to engage than to enrage. And Mentermon have developed with Coda Garden an open data platform, essentially, where you can go online and choose a town where the system is deployed, and you can find out about what's going on. So footfall, dwell time, demographics, I think there's air quality there as well, and make some decisions from it. So to summarize, IoT, Internet of Things, networks, well established. They're here for the foreseeable future. You are going to hear more on 5G low-powered networks coming out. But to give you a kind of sense on time, it's taken at least 10 years or just over 10 years to get 4G networks rolled out across the United Kingdom. And we have a £1 billion intervention between the UK government and industry in addressing the mobile hotspots. And this is, going despite having 10 years to deliver this. With 5G, you are going to need more structures because of those higher frequencies providing the higher speeds. So it's going to take quite a while for this to arrive in certain places, in smaller towns, definitely. So there's definitely a space for towns to build their own IoT networks as opposed to waiting. But that's on a case-by-case basis, as Welsh Government and local authorities, I'm sure, agree, we're here to support that. But don't forget about the mobile networks and what they have to offer. Don't forget that Wi-Fi is not just for analytics. We've come a long way. It's really pleasing to see that people are understanding that Wi-Fi can give us data. Because I remember about 10 years ago, I helped set up a town Wi-Fi project. It was one of the first in Wales, in Llandrin-Wells, where they just wanted Wi-Fi so they could access the internet. But Wi-Fi analytics was very, very new then, and they coupled that with a town champion and did some wonderful things with it. But now it's not just the analytics, but what about offering that all-inclusive ultra-fast service as well, so that when people are accessing online services, they can do so even faster than they might do from a mobile network, potentially, if there's congestion or if it's a busy summer period. And with regards to full fibre networks, they're well established in a lot of our towns, and that investment, whether it's through private sector or public sector intervening through Welsh Government, through UK Government, through the growth deals, that will continue. And there's always support for enhancing a premise to full fibre in some shape or form, and come and speak to us. And that's me, and I look forward to stop sharing my screen and hopefully understand if there's any questions. Diolch.
Brilliant, thank you, Peter. I've got a couple in the chat box, but please do everyone pop any questions in the chat box. If you want to raise your hand as well, we can go to you and take you off mute if you'd like to ask a question yourself. But to start with, Peter, there was a question. In terms of fibre, how can people find out what connectivity is available or will soon be available in their towns?
So it's a good question. Depending on where they are, you know, the first, if they're in an area that's Oggy, for example, which is a lot of Southwest Wales, then they could look at Oggy. They could look at the OpenReach website as well, and then also Think Broadband. It is there are other websites as well. Ofcom is a good one, but it's worth looking at some of the you know, some of the companies which we know offer fibre in those areas. There's always the question when. So if it says you're in a rollout area, well, the question is, well, when am I going to get it? And that's a question best addressed directly with the telecoms operators in question. And some of them do offer like community schemes where they can obtain grants to build something a little bit quicker than they would be if they're rolling out commercially.
Brilliant, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions?
Hi, is it possible to ask a question, please, to Peter?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
hi, it's Lee Wyndham from Swansea Council. Just a question really with regards to the Meraki and the footfall counters or the location analysis. I just wondering how much of a problem do you see in terms of the mobile operators doing sort of randomizing MAC addresses on mobile phones, which I think is sort of wasn't such an issue, but it's becoming more of an issue nowadays, and to see what sort of false positive results it's given then with regards to location analysis. So
I think there's two questions there, because the mobile network operators wouldn't be using Wi-Fi MAC addresses. Yeah. They would be obviously looking at the IMSI. I mean, if anyone's interested in this, on your phone, if you go into the keypad, like this, and just type in *#06#, you get a whole raft of information about your device, and they can't randomize that because some of that information is your subscriber information module, which authenticates you onto their network. But obviously, when they're selling such data, they have to make sure to be GDPR compliant that it's anonymized and it doesn't identify personally identify an individual. With something like the Meraki, that has a system which anonymizes the wireless MAC address onto their network, and then obviously when some of the handsets like the iPhones, where you can randomize your own MAC address, how do they distinguish that, for example, as a repeat visitor? And without looking at their documentation, I can't answer that. It would still count it as a visitor, but it's whether or not it classes it as a repeat visitor. I'm not sure without looking on my notes. But it's a good question, and it's also recognition that times change with technology, and the footfall counting with Wi-Fi is not new. It's been out since at least 2012. I remember Digital Gwynedd were the first local authority in Wales to deploy this in leisure centres, for example. Yeah, Kiki's just put, we have got a Q&A coming up with Cisco where you can put that question to them, because I just do not have that to hand. They do some clever wizardry with it, but there are other footfall counting systems. So if you're counting inside a shop, for example, you can get infrared beam breakers, but again, the disadvantages with them is that they're not unique. And then you've got some LoRaWAN ones which uses a bit of AI and like a camera, which can count people that way. Scott Andrews from Conway posted something on that yesterday, which again, it's very clever. And trust me, it is a challenge keeping on top of all of these technology developments, and trying to see people exploit them as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter. Has anyone else got any questions? No, I think that might be it in terms of questions, Peter. Got off fairly lightly there. As I've said, the session is recorded, so I know there was a lot of information there, really useful sort of information for you, so you can watch that back in your own time. So we'll make sure you all get a copy of that recording after the session today. And we'll also give you a link to register for next week's session, which is all about placemaking, bringing in a digital element to your placemaking plans. So that'll be a really useful session. I know we did touch upon Transforming Towns placemaking grant as an option last week. And within that, it's really important to consider those place plans. So make sure you do check out next week's session if that's of interest to you. I think there's just something come in the chat box. I think we need to consider also MIOTY for star networks and narrowband use for congested areas. WISUN for mesh, which do not require tower infrastructure. That might mean more to you than it does to me, Peter.
Now, does the person asking the question want to expand on that? Is that possible, so we can understand?
Certainly. Would you like to take yourself off mute so we can understand that question a little bit more? I can see that you have gone off mute, but we can't seem to hear you.
Okay, never mind.
Oh, I think we might have lost them. We can follow up perhaps with that one after the session today.
I think I understand sort of the basics with mesh networks, and you know that has its place. The challenge in a lot of these towns where you deploy is obviously sticking pieces of technology on buildings, and sometimes, because whether they're listed buildings or people just don't want them there or whatever, you can't get the optimum position to create that mesh network. It's very much easier said than done, as we've found out over the past couple of years. And then also there's other things, just to swallow on the subject of putting equipment on buildings, is we've seen some towns actually paint or put a wrap, a special wrap on the piece of digital infrastructure so it doesn't stand out as much, and it blends in with the color of the building, and that's very a good way of making it less visible on the eye. I certainly find it very effective. I think at the end of the day, people realize that to get their phones working when they're out and about, we're gonna be seeing and have to see more and more of these little shoebox size pieces of digital infrastructure across the place to give us those faster speeds that we as citizens are demanding. We were never doing video calls just a few years ago in the way we're doing now, but all of this stuff requires faster speeds. I mean, some of us will be doing video calls while out and about, and it's just one of those things that I think people are starting to accept more and more.
Hello?
Hello.
I had some problems with permissions in my computer, so I'm connecting hardly and losing some time. Sorry for that. This is Gökhan from Istanbul. Hi to all participants. Now I'm dealing with LoRaWAN and also like it very much. We have a lot of applications running in the field. But the thing is also there are new technologies which are gaining some market now. One of them is IoT, and the second one is Wi-SAN. And the Wi-SAN is mesh network. For specific applications, let's say for water administration or any utility services, etc., concentrated applications, Wi-SAN seems more easy to apply because you don't need infrastructure for towers, etc. One building, sensors in one building connect to another one, and at the end you manage a city with 120,000 subscribers. You manage with 4 gateways only, which you install in normal street level. So depending on the application, this kind of tactics may be applied, because if there is no LoRaWAN in one area, you cannot install a tower easily. You cannot get permission. We had this difficulty in Aberdeen, because in 2016 we had the first application in Aberdeen, and we couldn't install towers. Also, churches did not accept to put a hidden antenna, so we had difficulties in the application. So this is what I wanted to add to your technical presentation.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. We'll definitely look into the Wi-SAN standard. Is it a license-free service?
It's license-free, and license is included in the chip price. Chip prices were very expensive, but now it went down to 1/4 of the original announcement prices. And all brands now producing, Texas Instruments, Silicon Labs, etc., producing chips with high availability now. And these chips also can be used for any technology. When you buy the chip and make an application, then you can use it for another standard also.
Excellent. And what kind of range is with Wi-SAN, and what frequency does it work on?
The frequency is the same as LoRaWAN. So depending on the antenna size and power can go up to 20 dBm as in LoRaWAN. So you can reach to nearby, but when you reach to nearby, then you don't need so much power. So that allows you to operate near to 0 dBm in a building between the meters, let's say. Okay, similar to Bluetooth mesh. Since it is sub 1 GHz, you can reach up to 600 meters with a small antenna in a very busy district.
Fantastic. We'll definitely look into that. It's certainly new on my radar. It sounds great. Certainly, if it works in the way you say it works, and if it's on similar frequency, it's probably going to travel similar distances, presumably. It's the question is, will we see the same adoption of it?
I have seen that applications in India. I visited several towns and states there, and I have seen the field application, which is very successful. A very big city was managed by only 4 gateways. And at the street level, they were established for backup, actually. So this will be very popular, actually very popular in the US, because there are many installations, millions of installations with Wi-SAN, but now it will be popular starting from this year.
Yeah, no, excellent. Thanks for sharing. There's always something to learn in this game.
And thank you for this excellent presentation.
Thank you. It's good to see you participate from Istanbul as well.
Yeah, because I had some relations with UK before. I had a company in Aberdeen. So we are the first installer of LoRaWAN in the north.
Excellent, early adopter. So we gotta look into this YSUN to see if there's anything we can learn from that. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for adding that. Has anyone else got any just last minute questions now? Brilliant. Well, I've just popped the link for next week's session in the chat box, but again, we will follow up